All right. So if you guys have been checking out our show for a while, about 6 months ago, Suge started watching for the first time the series Bachelor. And Suge, let us know, why'd you start watching Bachelor earlier this year?
Just started having black people on it.
Okay, there you go. So recently, one of such black people was 2017, The Bachelorette, which is like the companion show to The Bachelor. Makes sense. They had Rachel Lindsay, a woman of color, as the person that everyone was vying for her love.
Hmm.
So this week she was speaking about the franchise, and she had some stuff to say about it. And Suge noticed that he brought it to my attention. Basically, we can get into everything she said, but Suge, why are we talking about this now? Like, why is it important to you and me?
I felt like I had to like apologize because I feel like I've been hard on her as well as Tasia Adams, who
Right.
was the Bachelorette. Actually, was like the Bachelorette of like the second half because the original Bachelorette, like Claire Crowley, I believe her name was. Like she decided who she wanted like midway through the season, and they needed somebody to choose between like the remaining like eight to ten people, 8 to 10 guys. I was critical of it because I know like before Matt season, everybody was being super duper like prejudiced, or like there a better word, and thinking that like Matt was gonna pick a white woman, which he ended up doing. Actually, probably picked the worst white woman because just found out she had a little bit of a racially insensitive checkered history. But I was critical when we did our look through, or our discussion on the history of the Bachelor with race, and I was like, it's kind of messed up that the two black bachelorettes, like, they picked white guys. I thought it was kind of weird. Like every time, and then you kind of like couple in Matt picking a white woman. It was like it's kind of crazy. Every time you have a black lead on this show, they still ended up picking white. So it kind of got me kind of suspect about the individuals themselves. Rachel, Tasia, and Matt. But then it came out this week that Rachel, she actually found out, I guess, from a few of the African American suitors on her show, that they were chosen. I don't know if they themselves realized they were chosen for this reason, but seemingly the casting directors or whoever's in charge of casting the contestants on The Bachelor, they chose all black men who had never dated an African American woman before. That got me to thinking. I was like, well, they probably, the fact that they chose men that never dated African American women before, these are guys who probably were already like averse to dating a black woman to begin with. So they probably had nothing in common with Rachel, or nothing, or they didn't seem interested in Rachel. So they were easily, it's like that. It's like Guess Who. Remember that game, Guess Who?
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
you flip down people. So in my thinking, after reading what Rachel said, I was like, that's like me being on a season of The Bachelor, and it's 30 women, and like 17 of them are white, nine of them are black, and then like four of them aren't black or white. And the nine black women that they chose were like Zoe Saldana and like Candace Owens or Doja Cat, like these black women who already don't even like black guys. So when I'm on the show, I'm already like, all right, I know like I have no future with these women, so I'm sending them home. So what's left? All really like non-black women. So the long and short of it is, if you skipped ahead, I have to apologize for them because I put the blame on them, and I just felt like they were perpetuating this stereotype that essentially black men aren't attractive or aren't eligible suitors.
Viable, yeah,
Yeah,
candidates.
viable suitors for someone to marry or somebody to spend the rest of their life with. When in reality, it's the bachelor the production, the producers, the casting directors, and stuff like that. Because as we've seen with Matt, because I also said I thought Matt was kind of like corny. I think he was, I said it. I tried to put kid gloves on it. I tried to sugarcoat it, but I feel like he wasn't like black enough. Personally, I thought he was, a cornball brother, as Rob Parker says about Robert Griffin III. I felt like he was a cornball brother. Yeah, so I'm just like, I feel like the same way people felt like he was perpetuating that stereotype that black women weren't attractive or viable suitors. I felt like Rachel and Tasia were doing that, but at the same time, now hearing this from Rachel, it's like in reality, what I suspected is what I know now, which is that the Bachelor franchise and the people, the showrunners and stuff like that, they've been apathetic and poor at dealing with people of color and casting people of color. And I think part of that has to be the fact of something I brought up when we were doing the Bachelor updates, which was that I think they picked like the safest black people possible, or the black people who would be most palatable to white people.
Yeah, so Rachel even says in her own words that as a black woman, I checked all the boxes, but she'll play the game in referring to the behind the scenes, like the franchise and the production behind it. I came from a background in casting and everything, and yeah, I agree. Like they probably you could describe it as plain chicken. Like, all right, they're not going to pick this person, so we'll still have it out there for the audience to for the first few weeks. So we won't get in trouble or like, hey, look, we're diverse here. But the end result was always going to be something that they had predetermined, which a lot of things in production is like they set things up where they had the foresight. They think this is what's going to happen, probably most likely, because reality TV docuseries, they play on straight up. I was involved in it. They play on prejudices, like in stereotypes. So like if you show some person on a show, like immediately the audience can pick it up and go, "Oh, this is who they are." It's very one dimensional. Like just I need to understand these people in one soundbite. So it's if you're looking for love like that, it's very hard to find someone with depth right away. But they need to be in control of it. So they set these things where like, all right, this person has never dated someone of their they never dated a black woman. All right, let's put them on there because most likely they're not gonna vibe together. And there's a part where she said that when she rewatched her season, Rachel said she saw herself crying and like having like a moment, like a freak out moment, but it was from they used it. They used a moment where she was freaking out about like, oh, like the people that they chose as a casting, but they used that one clip, the video of it, for something else, which
Mm-hmm.
is it's not ill intent. Like they weren't doing this maliciously. Like this is what they do in editing. They take one scene, one shot, and they manipulate it in different ways. That's just how TV is. But in this instance, it shows her. If they showed her actually freaking out about like, hey, this person never dated a black person before. Uh, how like that's what the thing was. That's what the moment was.
Mm-hmm.
And you watching it, you didn't realize that. You didn't know this. So now she said, basically, to sum it up, I did play the game. I know they said I would. I did. The contract is up, so now I'm speaking out about the franchise. She also was on a podcast that was kind of like a wrap up type show or something like that. But now she's like, Rachel Lindsay. Of course, she's in her own right. She's a successful attorney and everything. She's a media personality, and now she's being more outright saying, I was part of like this experiment to show people of color on this traditionally just white cast for the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So now she's trying to be like, okay, that wasn't good. That wasn't where we needed to do this. We needed to do it also behind the cameras.
Mm-hmm.
We need to diversify not just the people on screen as people behind the screen, because like they said, they the people casting didn't realize that someone if you put me on a show, like I never dated an Asian woman before, and the Bachelorette is an Asian woman, and it's my first time having some type of intimate love type thing with that. it's playing out on TV. It's probably not going to work out. That's not my personality. You're setting me up to fail right away.
Because the way I see it, I'm like, if you're in that situation, like that situation there where she's crying because, what she said was because she found out that they chose these guys that didn't date, these black guys that don't date black girls. It's a broad statement. And Lord only knows what is the actual, because I don't think like these guys like, you know what, like I don't date black women, but I'm here. I think it's a lot of like subtle things, quasi like microaggression type of things where it's like, like I don't mess with black girls because you guys have attitudes or shit like that and stuff like that. Probably compounded with things Rachel Lindsay has heard outside of the show before the show from many a black dude or many a guy. That was the thing that brought her to tears, and the fact that they used it for something else is like just nefarious in of itself. But the thing I thought of too, I was like, imagine I was on The Bachelor or some kind of like dating show like The Bachelor, and I related to it. I'm like, imagine I was really attracted to the black women or to like certain black women on the show, and then I sat down and talked to them, and these black women only dated like white guys, and like, oh, like what kind of stuff are you into? Well, I like listening to music. My favorite kind of music is like hip hop and R&B, and like this chick being like, oh, hip hop and R&B, that's like ghetto. And I'll be like, okay. Oh, what are your favorite movies? Well, I like Pulp Fiction, but my favorite comedy is like Friday. Like Friday, like that's like thuggish of you or some shit like that. And like off the rip, you're like, all right, I know I'm not gonna have a connection with this person.
Well,
Whereas like with like the white contestants, they'll probably be like, well, like I'm gonna give it a shot. And oh, like you like Friday. I mean, and it's funny because you actually saw those type of like conversations with Matt and Rachel, where she was like, "Oh, well, I don't know about your experiences, but I want to learn about them." And da 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 and da 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 da, because that's usually what like white girls do. Like, oh, I want to be your friend because I don't know nothing about this shit.
mm. And also the sample size is so small. Like, let's say the people, the two bachelorettes and one bachelor. So again, it's out of if you do the math, it's like a very small sample size. Uh, so who knows if things would be different? But now we're just focusing on these ones. But yeah. So if this was like this show is based on like dating at like blind dates, is pretty much like dating services. This is like the reality version of dating services that were very popular. They grew into dating apps, but you would have like a professional in charge of like, okay, so I like certain things. I like NASCAR and fishing, and I like heavy metal. All right. So one person who writes on their thing like, "Oh, I've never listened to heavy metal music before, and I don't think I really like it." Why would you even bother like putting that person in the selects, like that little pile? Like it's right there. It's just not a red herring, but it's also like it's a pitfall for TV for the sake of TV. Like you're gonna clash. These two people are gonna clash, and they're not gonna work out. But let's just put them out there for exciting TV. That's one thing you could say, or you could say like they want to perpetuate a certain belief. Like there's different things with the production side. Are they doing this just for exciting TV, or is this detrimental to advancing society and how we see these people? Who, because like diversity on TV is
Well,
important.
like she said, I think the whole shit gotta get overhauled because case in point, this is something we spent a lot of time on in our episode of talking about the Bachelor and Race, where their first like, and this was like 10 seasons into the Bachelor, the first non-white American Bachelor was like Juan Pablo, whatever his name is, and he was like a white Venezuelan dude. And it was like, oh, we're diverse now. And I'm like, bro, like if you took a picture of me and you took a picture of Juan Pablo, whatever his name is, and gave them to like a bank teller or whatever, or like a loan, the person who approves loans in a bank, and say, who are you giving a loan to? You have to give a loan to one of these people without knowing their financial history. Odds are they're gonna pick Juan Pablo because he looks like a white guy.
That's an interesting show.
Mm-hmm.
They should do that.
But the other thing about that thing is that her coming out and saying that, and the fact that she picked like a white guy, and like they're together still, so good for them. And then
Mhm.
Tasia picked a white guy, good for them. And then Matt, apparently he's back with Rachel, like I
Yeah,
say.
they're pursuing a relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, listen, better him than me. It wouldn't be me because just real quickly, like when I saw the thing with her and these pictures and the stuff like that, and then she was only confronted with it when it came to light, I thought of like how many biracial people I've met, or people who have like families with whites and blacks, and hearing how like you're the mixed kid, but they treat you a lot different than your white cousins, or outright like the white part of your family don't want to have like a relationship with you, and like the the white relative, and a black and her black significant other and stuff like that. And I was just like, I couldn't put my children through that. And I feel like with Rachel, she was raised that way because that's the only shit you could explain it. I'm like, her family and her upbringing, that's the reason why in 2018 she doesn't understand how offensive all of this shit is, because virtually 55% of white people are realizing that a lot of shit like she got doxed about is
Mhm.
offensive shit, but she's in that 45%, and it has to be the upbringing. So that's why me personally, I wouldn't have pursued a relationship after finding this shit out about. So better Matt than me. I hope they seek happiness, and I hope like she's a better person for his sake. But he chose her. Tasia chose a white person. Rachel chose a white person. Katie's white, so I don't know who she's gonna choose. But the next season, the following season after this, for the Bachelorette in the fall, is gonna be Michelle, she has a black father and a white mother, and
All
it's
right.
sad because I'm like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm hoping her as a black woman, she chooses a black guy. And I'm hoping if they choose another black bachelor, that person chooses a woman of color. Because I think it should be shown that like we are suitable people to pursue, a life of happiness with, or a life of marriage and have relationships with. Where I think like if every season you have like a black person, they end up choosing a white person. So I feel like it's perpetuating a stereotype where if you had your choice, you're not gonna choose someone of color. So that's what I hope for in the future. And it's sad that we're in this state, but The Bachelor has had a very bad history. Who knows? Maybe if they blow the whole shit up and have a whole new set of producers and casting directors, a diverse group of producers and casting directors, maybe the thing will change, and it will actually, if somebody actually chose a white person, it's like they chose that person out of love and not because the producers and the casting directors stacked the deck in that way.
But they would just do the opposite then. Then you're saying the same thing. They would stack it so then the ultimate outcome is what they want anyway. So it'd be the same thing. So I watch like it's going to be it's going to be constructed in a way where they they're gonna it's like not predetermined, but they're gonna like, okay, this is the result we want. Let's see how we get it with having this person in casting. Or well, this. It's still gonna be them trying to, you know, figure it out. So it's still a TV show. It's still like I don't know. It's like reality TV is reality TV. So they're gonna have to set it up in a way where okay, this is what we kind of want to get. So if that's going to be the outcome, then they're still going to have to stack up the casting with certain personalities and stuff. So it's still the same thing. It's just different people are going to be in charge of the production, except for the people they've had now. That's just TV.
I mean, like you have like MTV's Are You the One, where they actually get like dating experts and like relationship experts, and it ain't always like it'll be like a white guy and a white girl, it'll be like a black guy and a black girl, it'll be like a black guy and a Spanish girl, and it's just based off of your whatever you said you're
Mm.
interested in and what they say they're interested in. So it can be done in a way that I don't have to be slanted for certain people to end up with certain people.
Yeah, it's a huge franchise again, and it's like ABC, aka Disney. So there's so much money involved in this. So we'll see because the huge property, huge franchise. So I'm gonna keep going with Bachelor and figure it out because it's a flagship show. So if they're gonna make a drastic change, if drastic, I don't see it happening overnight. Again, like they've been doing this for 20 years, and this is the biggest progress they've made so far. So I don't know how quickly you're gonna start seeing the TV people represented that you want to see because I still see it taking longer. They got you as a fan now, right?
Not really.
No, I don't know.
I'll
Hey,
see what they do. I have to see what they do with the Bachelor.
yeah, there you go.
Because if it's
Um,
another white guy or it's like an Asian dude or something, I mean, it'd be cool if it is an Asian dude because they don't get represented enough
so
on
if they
TV.
do, yeah, of course they could make a show that's like three different versions of The Bachelor, but then it's still
But
not The
then, like,
Bachelor. It's
I
not The
think,
Bachelor, you know.
like, either way, like, you pick like a person of color, and like, I could see them picking like an Asian dude and still ending up with like a white girl. I could see them picking like an Asian girl and her still ending up with like a white dude. But
So people listening who don't understand what the big deal is, you can kind of it's comparable to Miss America or like Miss Universe. That title might seem silly, but it's important. It's a
long,
thi- it's an
long,
important thing, you know.
long story short, like, you watch this show for 10, like, this is the whole encapsulates the whole show. It's a show you watch for like 10 weeks, and at the end of it, like, you start off with 30 people and one, but at the very, 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 very end of it, you still end up with at least one white person, and that's the issue. And the thing that Rachel Lindsay highlighted was that they've structured it in that way. They've casted it in that way. I don't think like regular people understand how casting works, and they think like it's just like people apply to be on a show and they just take everybody. It's like they apply to a show, they send in these audition tapes, they do all this background stuff and blah 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 blah. And if you fit the personality that will add intrigue, but at the same time gets the show to the end point that they want to end at, they're gonna pick that person instead of the right person. That's the long and short of it.
It's not an experiment, it's a show. If it was an experiment, it would have been like, let's see if this actually does happen. But they have their hands all over it. The invisible hand is, and I'm guilty of it. I've been on shows where I learned it the hard way. A lot of these people that seem to be progressive and stuff, they're oh yeah, let's put that person on. They'll stir the shit. But yeah, I mean, that's reality TV, and we can move on from that.